I'm going to play an old poem for you from 1842 by Alfred Lord Tennyson called The Lady of Shalott. And in this excerpt, what you're supposed to get is there is some nature and there's a castle. So see if you can pick out that image.
Willows whiten, aspens quiver, little breezes dusk and shiver through the wave that runs forever by the island in the river flowing down to Camelot. 4 grey walls and 4 grey towers overlook a space of flowers, and the silent isle embowers the Lady of Shalott. By the margin.
So you see we have nature, willows, aspens, we have some breezes, we have an island. He specifically says it's an island. We have Camelot, the mythical place, 4 gray walls and 4 gray towers overlook a space of flowers. So that's a castle looking onto flowers. And on that island in those towers is the Lady of Shalott. So there's a lady living in a castle on an island that's in a river that looks down to Camelot. So pretty clear overall. T.S. Eliot is going to be one of the most famous modern poets, and he is going to take these old images that we have, things like Camelot, things like islands and rivers. He's going to look to ancient myth and legend, and he is going to almost make it completely incomprehensible. You'll study him probably a lot in college if you become an English major, where pretty much every single line has a footnote. But it's actually really fun. It's kind of like cracking a code. But I'm going to play for you Jeremy Irons reading an excerpt of his most famous poem called The Wasteland. And he, in the poem of The Wasteland, is written after World War I in the midst of all the death and the destruction. And it's looking at the modern world and asking, is it a wasteland? And what is the hope? And he's going to use a lot of classical languages too in trying to make his point. And his whole idea was you didn't necessarily have to understand him, but that the musicality of his verse would make you feel something.
I sat upon the shore, fishing, with the arid plain behind me. Shall I at least set my lambs in order? London Bridge is falling down. Falling down. Falling down. Poi s'ascose nel fuoco che ne fina, quando fiam caio che lidon. Oh, swallow, swallow. Le prince d'Aquitaine à la tour abolie. These fragments I have shored against my ruins. Why then I'll fit you, Hieronymus, mad again. Tata, Ayadvam, Damyata, Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
So in Eliot's interpretation, we have hearkening back to older songs, children's songs with iconic landmarks. We have snippets of Italian, of French, and Hindu prayers. Again, more cultural references that you have to figure out before you can even start to comprehend the poem. So he's looking at our classical world, trying to twist it all up, but then to evoke some new sort of emotion. And that's really what the whole theme of the 1920s art and modern art is going to be. So here's just another depiction. This picture was painted in the 1860s. Just your sort of basic landscape. It looks very inviting, warm. You see a waterfall, some horses. How nice, something very picturesque. It looks rather realistic. And then here's a picture from the 1920s. So we have much more angular, representative, not realistic adaptations of what someone would actually look like. She's very angular. You see we have the city, the modern landscape in the background while she's playing music. So art contrasted with the harsh reality of the modern city. Two of sort of these favorite themes of man versus the modern machine. Very angular, and we're going to see more of this type of representation moving forward and moving into modern art. So in summary, the Lost Generation artists are writing about disillusionment and about alienation. Women are going to become flappers. We're actually going to have two types or three types. You had your traditional, more conservative women. Then you had your flappers who would smoke, drink, dance. They bobbed their hair short. They began to wear makeup. Previously, makeup was only for prostitutes. They were going to embrace the bra, so no more corsets, and they truly become the modern woman. A vamp is a more extreme flapper who would do all of these behaviors, but break, I would say, even more cultural norms and not really care if they broke every single rule, whereas flappers would care a little. They wouldn't go too far over the edge. Women have much more freedom at this time, and we talked last time about pink collar labor, so women are going to be able to work more outside the home, become telephone operators, start to do more secretarial work, all of that for women, and of course our 19th Amendment. African Americans are also going to be part of this renaissance of literature, and it's going to be known as the Harlem Renaissance, and it will be centered in New York City in the district of Harlem that was increasingly becoming a black neighborhood. We had men like Langston Hughes right here, one of the most famous African American poets of all time, and he actually, for those of you who read, I'm pretty sure you all read Raisin in the Sun last year, he's the one who wrote that Raisin in the Sun poem. Also, jazz music was going to become huge in the African American community. It would be played in clubs in Harlem, a lot of speakeasies where you would go, because remember the prohibition was on, so to get your illegal drinks, but listen to wonderful music too, and that was a real part of the black community. So follow along with your modern American handout at this time. There's also going to be some new aspects of modern life that are with consumer culture. So we have now the emergence of a consumer-oriented society in urban America, where we have these new inventions and people are going to want to buy these new inventions. These goods are going to be aimed at individual consumers, and if you don't have the new plug-in refrigerator, before it was literally an ice box, a box with ice in it that you would get delivered to your house every day. If you didn't get a record player, if you didn't get a plug-in vacuum cleaner, you were just not cool. So we're going to have, since we have now more modern machinery, we're going to have assembly line production. These goods are going to be created and aimed towards us. Americans are really going to start to like our stuff. So in order to let everyone know that all this stuff exists, there's going to be new advertising techniques. So previously in advertisements, they actually didn't have big pictures with a narrow margin of text. Anytime you see that today, big picture, a little bit of text on the side, that is directly related to the 1920s and these modern ad techniques. So you would see the picture, oh look, she has her hands full. She doesn't need the ice, but she needs the electric refrigerator. It's going to help her out so much. The Lenador, it opens at the touch of a toe. She needs that because her hands are full. You need Listerine. Remember, we talked about sex starting to become more talked about. Even though this guy looks really frightening, apparently she wants to kiss him, but she can't because you have to be sure that you're playing it safe and using Listerine, so breath freshener. So how are we going to get all these things? We're going to have to pay over time. So the installment plan is going to be there for us. Buy now, pay later. It's only going to feed our consumer frenzy, and it really does change society forever. Because now we're going to be able to put a down payment, so $250 a week, so you can go get this loudspeaker. What is this? Loudspeaker record player, amazing machine. So this means that Americans are going to start buying things and purchasing things they can't actually afford, because you can maybe afford $250 a week. You couldn't afford $88 a week, but you're going to now buy multiple things. And when the Great Depression hits, this is going to be a problem because we are still going to have the desire for consumer goods. We're not going to be able to pay for all our consumer goods. So we really have, this is when in United States history we can really first identify with modern society being like the 1920s because of the installment plan. This is because of mass marketing. These are going to be some of these new traits. We're also going to have instant communication. So the radio is going to become central to American life. You would sit down with your family and listen to your favorite shows. Maybe you sit down with your families today and listen to something. But this is what you would do then. You would listen to these radio shows as a family to get your news. And FDR is going to use the radio tremendously when he becomes president to start giving his fireside chats during the Great Depression. We're also going to have the emergence of celebrity culture. So previously we had been looking for our idols. We would look at famous Americans, great Americans like George Washington, Abraham Lincoln. But now we're going to have what I would say the birth of celebrity worship. So Babe Ruth, he is going to be our sports star, and we're also going to now start looking to him as a role model. This is Clara Bow. She was sort of the Jennifer Lawrence of her time. Girls wanted to be her, guys wanted to date her. If you were cool, you would go down to your hair salon and say you wanted a Clara Bow haircut, and that's what you would get. And so women really emulating her. And then we had Rudolph Valentino over here. He was literally the Leonardo DiCaprio of his time, but starting again to look to celebrities to be our role models instead of great Americans. Much to the great sadness. Cars. So remember, Henry Ford is going to start the Model T Ford. We're going to start with assembly line production. So now people can take a weekend trip away. They can actually have more leisure time, get in the car and go somewhere. You go to San Francisco for the weekend and so on. The other fun fact about the car is that there's going to actually be a boom in teenage pregnancy because of the car. Teenagers wanting to get away from their parents and getting pregnant in the back seat. Very interesting legacy of the car, but it is going to make us now a more mobile society. We also are going to have the prohibition and organized crime. So even though we have this ban on alcohol, there is going to be a backlash. Organized crime is going to rise to get more alcohol. I'll let you click on that link there from the biography channel. And we're going to have an upswing in nativism as well. So it's not all pretty. We have the KKK. The first movie that we are going to have, not the first talking movie, but the first movie is going to be called Birth of a Nation. And it's in 1915, and it is about how wonderful the KKK is. So that's going to be our first movie.